Welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast, your go-to source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We hope you tune in often for all things people management, organizational development and change, organizational leadership, and social impact related. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with Human Capital Innovations Podcast. Welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast. In this HCI podcast episode, I talk with Darrian and Mikell about work-life integration and growing a remote-first company. Darrian and Mikell, welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
It is a pleasure. I'm super excited to have a nice conversation. You're joining us from the Indianapolis area. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. Today, we're going to be talking about your company, Qualify. You'll explain a little bit more about that to us here in a moment. And really more broadly, your journey in starting this company and broader issues around work-life balance, work-life integration, and growing a remote-first company while trying to juggle all of that. I'm super excited to explore that with you. And as we get started, I just wanted to share Darrian's bio with everybody. Darrian Mikell is the co-founder and CEO of Qualify, a SaaS platform that powers the fastest phone interview experience in the world and helps recruiting teams hire great candidates faster than ever before. He graduated from Indiana Wesleyan University in 2013 with a bachelor's degree in entrepreneurship and finance. Darrian was a two-sport athlete in both basketball and track and field and was a national champion in the long jump. He is based in Indianapolis and is dedicated husband and father of three. That is so wonderful. I can't say that I'm athletic really at all, though I do enjoy sports, but I definitely relate in terms of the family. I consider myself a family man. I have 6 children, and it's a joy. It's a pleasure to be with you today. Anything else you would like to share with listeners by way of your background or personal context before we dive on in further?
No, that covered it. I can barely say that I'm an athlete still. I still like to get up and down and try, but it's fading. It fades slowly, hopefully.
Yeah, I have a few years on you. So I'm in my early 40s, and my goodness, there's something happens late 30s, early 40s, where I just, things I used to be able to do decently well. I was never like a great athlete, but yeah, I could still do things decently well. And man, now it's just so much harder.
Yeah, your mind still thinks you can do it, probably.
My mind does, yes. And then my body's hating me later. So
yeah.
Well, no, good. That. Yeah. So why don't we start it with you telling us just a little bit about Qualify? What is it? What do you do? And why did you want to start this organization?
Yeah, I'll start with kind of the last piece there. We wanted to start it. I have 3 other co-founders, and the first co-founder is actually my brother. So he and I resonated on this pain point that we were both experienced when we were leading recruiting at our respective organizations. And we just found it to be, when we found recruiting overall to be really difficult, it's a bigger workload than a lot of people realize. And we saw this unique problem specifically in the realm of the phone interview, where it was really repetitive, still took up a lot of time, even though it's supposed to be a relatively short conversation, and you're doing it with a multitude of candidates. And so that's what we solve for now at Qualify. We give recruiters the tools and the ability to pre-record audio-based questions. They can use these questions in the question bank to create any number of interviews and make standard and structured, and more importantly, scalable interviews that they can send out to multiple candidates simultaneously, and still maintain a really personal and efficient touch with these candidates. The candidates will receive an invite, click a link to get started, and when they're ready, after they've read the instructions, they hit start, and our system will call their phone directly, and they can pick up and answer those questions, hear the recruiter's voice, and respond. And then obviously we record that information and bring it back to the recruiter in a much faster timeline. And so Yeah, it's been working really well with a lot of our, recruiting teams that we work with. And to go from an idea to where we're at now, seeing the value that it provides has been really, really special to me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I've seen other types of platforms, either with video or with
Hmm.
a voice call, where essentially you get a link, you click on it, and then you just go and there's a prompt and you respond. What
Yeah.
one of the things I like about your platform and what you're doing is that you actually have the recruiter's voice
Yeah.
asking the questions. So it's not as cold, it's not as impersonal or stale
Yeah.
as some of these others I've seen tend to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah. We honestly, we kind of came into that a little naively, but that was definitely one of our calling cards. Now we like to think of it just a more conversational experience compared to a lot of the other interviewing tools that are on the market. And so that piece is important, just maintaining as much as of the human experience as possible. And I think we're doing a pretty good job about that and continuously improving on that experience as well.
Yeah, very cool. Well, so that's fascinating. And as is the case in most businesses, as they get started, you see a pain point, you see a gap, and you're trying to figure out how you can address it. And so you and your co-founders, you found Qualify, and you start building it and rolling it out and getting clients and everything. So all that's wonderful. And you made the conscious decision early on that you wanted this to be a remote first company. Tell us a little bit more about that, why you made that decision, and how it's played out for you over the last couple of years.
Yeah. To be honest, when we first got started, I think it was a little bit up in the air in terms of whether or not we would be remote or, establish an office. I wouldn't say it's a debate within the founder ranks, but some people just like to be around other people a little bit more often than others. And so I still think that there's room for, some sort of blend or just figuring out how to be, again, maintaining the human touch as much as possible, even as we build the company. But early on for us, it was kind of natural as a founder group. I mentioned there's, 4 total founders. And by nature of us all having kind of full-time jobs when we first started Qualify, we were doing this in the evening hours and doing it remotely, just in our off time. And so it was kind of a natural rhythm for us. But then more strategically, as we were bringing on funding and starting to hire, we just thought, one, it was a little bit more cost effective as opposed to like really setting, buying actual real estate or setting up or leasing an office. And then even more importantly, the talent that we could get by, broadening our scope to honestly a global level. We have folks in different parts of the country, and then we have contractors in different parts of the world. And so it just broadened our ability to, hire great people. And I think we will ultimately be better because of that.
Yeah, and you highlight one of the key benefits to a virtual company, a remote first workplace, and that is that you break down those geographical barriers and limitations that exist in a face-to-face kind of corporate setting, so you can tap into top talent anywhere domestically, anywhere globally,
Yes.
as long as they have the technology, as long as they can deal with the time zone difference. Then
Yeah.
really it opens it up to anybody, and that's an amazing thing. Now, it's not like you're in an area that doesn't have plenty of good talent. You're in a robust metropolitan area with a really strong labor force, so you have lots of
Yeah.
people to choose from. But when you're looking for particular specific types of roles, and particularly in technology and STEM related fields, it's a challenge. And so
Yeah.
having more opportunity and casting a
100%.
wider net just has so many benefits.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, there's like, I haven't done like a deep dive study on the breakdowns in terms of pockets of strength in our local, workforce. Like if we're hiring certain roles, is there, a really deep bench of labor there. But yeah, just like you said, broadening it, especially for a startup, like timing is everything. And generally speaking, in a startup, when you need things, you kind of need them fast and immediately. And so whereas you could wait a little bit longer and maybe find some folks locally, if you brought in that scope, at least we found that we can make hiring decisions a lot faster, find a more volume of candidates to be able to compare and make those decisions. And so, and then the other big piece for us too, being really intentional about having a diverse, workforce, and I think opening it up geographically can help with that as well.
Yeah. And I'm also curious, we're in the middle of what's been called the Great Resignation. People recognize a couple years into this pandemic that they have options, and people have taken, reassessed what matters to them, what their core values are, and what they want to do in their life and with their career. And for many people, that they've come to the conclusion that they don't want to commute an hour each way. They don't want, maybe they want to live outside of a big city. They don't want to live, in a metropolitan area or whatever. So I'm curious, how many of your applicants and how many people on your team specifically, really find a remote first company. It's a recruiting tool. It's an enticement to get good people to apply.
Oh yeah, 100%. And when I've polled folks internally, like there's some folks that, I think most people on the team want to get together in person more often than maybe we do currently, but overwhelmingly, they all prefer the remote life and their ability to be at home more often with their family, or just doing things without a commute. And me personally, I mentioned, when you asked about the decision to go remote, and how at first it was not necessarily a certain path that we were going on, but the pandemic kind of in some ways like forced us to do that, obviously, like
forced your hand in it. Yeah.
Because before I was personally going to a co-working space, I used to be of the mindset, I have the family at home, and I personally before would get easily distracted and want to like take more breaks and go hang out with them or do other stuff, and then when I was forced to start working from home, I actually got in a good rhythm with it and enjoy it. Prior to qualify, I was at another company where I did have a 45-minute commute every day. And, especially with young kids and their bedtimes, I was missing out on like a huge chunk of, their life and, that time I got to spend with them. So my commute now is a step out the door and, out of my home office. And I like that a lot better. And it is a big recruiting appeal. But even with that, it's very top of mind for me to think about other ways that we can be attractive beyond remote. There's other, things beyond just like people throwing money at the problem with perks and benefits, just other ways of going about work that I want us to be hopefully on the forefront. There's 4-hour work weeks and different, work cadences and how people approach work overall. And I'm all about, us figuring that out, what works for Qualify and using that as a way to maintain, like retain employees, but attract them as well in the first place. And just make the way that we do work a lot better.
I'm excited to announce the publication of my new book from HCI Press, Bluer Than Indigo Leadership: The Journey of Becoming a Truly Remarkable Leader. Early in my adult life, I learned about an Asian proverb that translates as bluer than indigo. If you think about the color indigo, it is a brilliant, deep, and vibrant blue, what some would call the bluest of blues. To have something that is bluer than indigo is rare and truly remarkable. Contrary to popular myth, there is no one-size-fits-all or cookie-cutter approach to effective leadership. There's no silver bullet, no secret sauce, no go-to model that will solve all of our problems. The truth is, great leaders have all had their unique strengths and flaws, and have all had to discover and then pave their own distinctive path in their life's journey to fulfill their leadership potential. Bluer Than Indigo Leadership will help you discover your own path and explore those ordinary, everyday actions that will help you respond to an uncertain future and produce extraordinary results for individuals, teams, and organizations. Yeah, the design of work matters more now than it ever has. I'm
Yeah.
convinced. And people want flexibility. That's the bottom line. Whether
Mhm.
it's in person, whether it's remote or some sort of hybrid arrangement, whether it's a 4-day work week or a traditional 5-day, just the flexibility for people to put in their hours when they're able and to take time
Right.
away. Like you need to go pick up the kids from school, or you want to go to this game, or you want to help them with their homework, so you can adjust your schedule accordingly. Those types of things, that makes a big difference for a lot of people. And again, after a couple of years of this pandemic and people taking stock on their life and figuring out what matters most to them, many people have just come to the realization that devoting themselves to the company while sacrificing their family is not a trade-off they're willing to make anymore, right? And
Right.
so this brings us into really where I want to take the rest of the conversation, and that is the work-life integration. Some people term it work-life balance, work-life integration. There's all these different ways to say it, and people have their preferences. Ultimately, though, the same germ of an idea is there, that when we're talking about work-life integration, we have this realization that people have complex lives, and it's
Yes.
not, I can't just turn off my personal life and then go to the office and spend 10, 12, whatever hours a day. And, to have the expectation that I can just ignore all the stuff that's happening at home and not even think about it.
Yeah.
And if I had a really bad day, or say I had an argument with my spouse, or I had a tough conversation with my child, or someone's sick, or whatever, like all these things, they bleed over into each other. And if you have a hard day at work, you come home, and that can bleed into your relationships with your family. And so it's not about,
It's not an on-off
siloing.
switch. Yeah.
There's no on-off switch. You can't just silo it, and it bleeds back and forth. And so thinking about healthy ways to have that integration while maintaining some level of balance between the different key aspects of your life is really important. And so for me as an individual and as an employee, I need to recognize that in myself, and I need to set up healthy boundaries, and I need to do those things. But as a co-founder and as a leader within your organization, and any leader in an organization, you have to think about that for your people as well. How do
Oh
you
yeah.
help the whole individual bring their whole authentic self to work? And sometimes that means it's the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's not always roses, and
Right.
sometimes we have to be there to support people, even related to stuff that has nothing to do with the job.
Yeah.
How have you approached that at Qualify in terms of supporting that work-life balance, that work-life integration in a healthy way?
Yeah. I think I think one of the first steps is just acknowledging it. And one of the ways that we do that, it's a very simple thing that anyone can just like immediately start, instituting if they're not already, is we do in most of our meetings. We do what we refer to as like red, yellow, green. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of that concept, but it's an opportunity before we hop into, just jump straight into whatever the plan was to talk about. Just a level set on like where people are coming into that meeting at. Like, are they green, all systems go, ready to start? Yellow, maybe they're super tired, or they had just like an off day, or they're feeling off. Or red, like, hey, not a good time, I might need to like reschedule, or we need to pause, and I need to maybe bounce out and take a break, or a mental break. That's one way of doing it, just acknowledging that there is just real life that everyone is dealing with on a daily basis. And that red, yellow, green could be professional, it could be personal, it can be a mix of both. And so I think that's one start, is just acknowledging it. And then two, like I said, I'm actively looking for different ways to institutionalize like how we make sure people feel rested, in that they can bring their full selves to work every day. And especially being a part of a startup, there's so much investment and time and energy and thought, like even when you're at home, especially as a founder, like your brain is constantly running. And so figuring out those ways. One of those for us is we've like a lot of companies do, unlimited PTO, which on the surface, I mean, if you read about it, on the surface, it does appear to be a really good thing, but it can be problematic. And so with that, we acknowledged that and we said, all right, at minimum, we want you to take We require them to take two weeks at least vacation every year. And even that's tough because how are we monitoring it?
Yeah, I'm glad you're highlighting that, because many companies, they say they have unlimited PTO, but then the culture is that nobody actually takes time off,
right?
And that you get negatively impacted if you take time off, and so obviously that is defeating the purpose. So I like how you're saying, okay, everyone has to take this much time, and then beyond that, if you need it, take it. I like that. That's great.
Yeah, and we've actually made it one of our KPIs that we're tracking against as a company. And so with that, we've instituted one just during like our semi-annual performance reviews. It's now at least a question that gets asked, like how much PTO did you take, this last couple of quarters, and then like what's your plan for upcoming, and then we instituted like a tracking tool just to one, make it easier for us to manage against, but then also sometimes it's hard to remember what, when you did and didn't take time off. So it's easier for, us to, again, manage that and plan for it. So that's one way. And then just looking at processes and how we're approaching it, especially in the remote world. Like one of the things I want to constantly evaluate is meetings. How much time are we spending in meetings versus like doing deep work? Can we do more things asynchronously? And there's a lot of tools on the market to help with that and aid with that. And so those are areas that I'm being, personally thoughtful, as well as like benefits and things that we're trying to provide to encourage, certain behaviors that we value. So yeah, those are a few of the areas that I'm trying to put more thought and resources behind.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And as you think, anyone listening, you're thinking about your total compensation, both the salary, the benefits, the perks, all of those kind of more intangible cultural elements. All of that gets lumped together into what we call the total compensation package, and that's what we're using to recruit and retain really great talent. And it's one thing, like coming back to the PTO thing, it's one thing to say it and to say, yes, we offer unlimited PTO. It's another thing altogether to actually have a culture where the senior leaders are taking time off themselves, and they're modeling for their people that, yes, in fact, we say take time off. We actually do it ourselves. We expect you to do it. It's built into the performance review system. There's KPIs. I love that.
That's one thing I personally need to do a better job of it now that it's in our system, that at least somebody's going to ask me, hopefully have you
someone's going to follow up on it. And really, so it reinforces, it provides that institutionalized mechanism to reinforce the cultural component. That's really important to who you are, what you're trying to do in being supportive as a leader, and what your organization is trying to do to help with that work-life integration and that work-life balance with your people, to create that healthy, safe environment. That's what we all want. And I truly believe that most leaders and most organizations want to have that for their people. But getting from the conceptual to like where the rubber meets the road and actually making it happen in a meaningful way doesn't always happen. In fact, it usually doesn't happen. There's usually big gaps there between aspirations versus actual performance and what ends up happening. And so what does that mean for us? That means, yes, we have to be thoughtful about it. Yes, we have to be proactive about it. We have to build in the mechanisms that will support the type of culture that we want to build and sustain over time. And then we have to revisit it over and over and over again. And as long as we're doing that, we're not going to be perfect. Nobody's going to be perfect. And we're going to try things that don't seem to work, or we're going to have aspirations that don't become fulfilled. But if we're mindful and thoughtful about it, we're going to get closer than we would otherwise. And our people are going to, they're really going to appreciate the effort.
Yeah, I think it's just all about like intentionality and buy-in, and follow through. Like if you want to make change, you want to make sure that your people are enjoying their work experience, then you obviously need to have that mindset to want to get their feedback, try to make those changes, implement those changes, and then the buy-in pieces. Nothing happens if, especially executive leadership's not, part of the conversation and committed to, having that infiltrate the culture. So that's why it's top of mind for me, because this is my favorite part about entrepreneurship, is building the company. I'm an ideas person, so I love ideas, but regardless of, what we put out into the world, I hope to, build a company that people enjoy, working at. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, Darrian, it has been a pleasure. I know at the time I'm going to have to let you go here in just a few minutes, but before we close, I wanted to give you a chance to share with listeners how they can get connected with you and find out more about your organization, your team, and then give us a final word on the topic for today.
Yeah. Really easy to find me or us. Qualify is the name of my company, spelled with an I instead of a Y. So QUALIFI.HR is our URL. You can find me on LinkedIn. Should be pretty easy. My name's pretty unique in the world, so that should be pretty easy to search and find me there. Would love to connect with you. And yeah, I'll kind of recap the last point I just made, just having intentionality, getting buy-in, and just getting the feedback and implementing those changes that your employees already have a voice. Like, hopefully they already have a voice. So just be in the mindset of listening and trying to make those changes. So yeah, I'll end with that.
Wonderful. Darrian, it's been a pleasure. I encourage listeners to reach out, get connected, find out more about what Darrian and his team can do for you. Think about what you can do in your organization to promote more healthy work-life balance, work-life integration, and to be there for your people. And as always, I hope everyone can be healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week. The alchemy of truly remarkable leadership. Ordinary, everyday actions that produce extraordinary results. Consider how the nature of work has shifted over the past 50 years. With increased globalization, rapid technological advancement, and the shift in economic composition, the average job of today looks very different than the average job of 50 years ago. What will the jobs and organizations of tomorrow look like? Moreover, what does this all mean for organizational leaders? What are the core competencies and capabilities of organizations and their leadership that are prepared for continued disruption and geopolitical and socioeconomic shifts? Regardless of what the future holds, increasingly, leaders need to be socially minded, data-driven, decisive, champions of talent, and disruptors of the traditional notions of leadership, teams, organizations, and work. The alchemy of truly remarkable leadership will help you to explore your own leadership competencies and capabilities and consider ways to apply and implement them into your workplace and personal life. Check out Human Capital Innovations magazine, Human Capital Leadership. Human Capital Leadership is a free, interactive e-magazine with the mission to help individuals, leaders, and organizations find innovative approaches to maximize their human capital potential. We publish issues quarterly in August, November, February, and May. Take a look at the latest issue and let us know what you think. Thanks again for joining us for this episode of the Human Capital Innovations Podcast. I hope you stay healthy and safe and that you have a great week.